name's Michael Kay. I live and work in France, have been for some years now, and I'm a ceramic artist, and this is the sort of thing I make. I make vessels that are a combination of the art of a potter, a sculptor and a painter. I call my pieces illustrated vessels, which, as you see, that's what they are. They are always pots, because I like the idea of having an interior and an exterior. The challenge is to create imagery that follows the form, perfectly marrying the two. I will throw this will be the base, and then that's the extension, and then I will cut it at an angle so that we have an angle coming out which makes it more dynamic. As everyone knows, the centering is the most important part, always. So if I've got a bigger piece like this, I like to center by coning. I'm using is a red clay that I get from a local, from Solagil, which is a main French supplier, but it all comes from Spain, and I find this is the red clay I use a white clay as well from them, but this particular red clay I find very nice to throw with and to model with too. For these larger pieces, the large sculptural pieces, because it has to be stronger with all the pieces added and the manipulation, there is a slight grog in this clay. I sometimes use this same clay ungrogged, which is easier to throw, nicer to throw, but it wouldn't be strong enough for this particular sort of work. I'll just finish off the surface, compress the surface a little bit and tighten it up with the tool. That will serve as the base, and next I will take this off, measure the top here and produce a second piece which I will cut at an angle and then add to this so we have a dynamic form. I want the shape to be wider at the base and thin out towards the top, so we'll keep this form. Okay, so this is the first stage. We've thrown the base and the additional top part. Now I have to let these stiffen up. Once they've stiffened up, I will cut this base at an angle and then place it on here, weld it in so that we have an extension which goes up at an angle. What I need to do now is to soften up these edges where I'm going to join them and slip them so they all fit together nicely. Now I've made this a little bit bigger so that we can carve this down and mould the two together. Welding of the clay, one piece with the other, is very important. Carry on at this stage doing this until I have the shape that I want, that is pleasant and is working. There's a piece of clay that I rolled out earlier and it has stiffened up enough. It's been left overnight. And I will take this and mould it around. I have a number of little forms that I've made. This is simply plaster, and I have all kinds of things that I use as moulds, but in this particular instance we'll use this one. There's a piece of plaster. We must be very careful when I cut so that I don't get bits of plaster in the clay, because that's a disaster. Okay. First I just cut it down, unwanted pieces of clay. Now this is a simple tool, but it's very effective to compress the clay and strengthen it by beating. Here is the piece that we rolled out earlier, that we made up earlier. I put this inside just to keep the shape alive. I'll just mark out where I have to put the slip. This is to join it so that it's nice and smooth on the join. This is what is so terrific about clay. It's just so malleable and so tactile. The feeling of it is fabulous. Take a nice rubber kidney and refine this. So we'll work on that until we get the right shape, and then let it stiffen, and I will take out the piece inside. Now, in this instance, people ask me quite often, what comes first, the form or the image that goes on the form? And it depends, frankly. Sometimes I will just create a form, just make a shape, and then decide according to the shape what the imagery will be. Other times I'm always making sketches. I've got sketchbooks, hundreds of sketchbooks full of bits and pieces. One of the subjects I like very much is dance. I have certain subjects that keep recurring in my work, and as I say, one is dance. And I was doing these little sketches of tango. I love tango, so right now this slip is a basic white slip that I got the recipe from Harrow Art School, and I found that it works very well on this red clay. It's a simple 3 parts ball clay, 2 parts china clay, and about 5% zirconium oxide. Right, now I'm just building up the white areas. We have to build it up in a number of coats, otherwise you won't get the right coverage. So I'll just carry on. Block out the shapes. And I will draw into that later with a Sgraffito tool. Sometimes I use a knitting needle or a pointed tool of some sort to create the lines. My pieces are sculptural, but they are always vessels. You know, there's always an interior and an exterior. So you can put something in them, use them as containers or whatever you want, but they are vessels always. In fact, I call them illustrated vessels. It's not like paint. Slip is very different to paint. Thicker and not as easy to use. Trying to make the line follow the line of the form. It's all about marrying the shapes that one is applying to the shape of the form itself. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. The woman in the red dress. Once these lines are drawn in there, then you've lost. It's got to be one go, because if you make a mistake, it's difficult to correct it. It's not like painting, you can just paint over, but you can't with this. You've made your mark. I tend to have favourite subjects that keep recurring in my work. I mean, they change over time, but they are at the moment, or they have been for a while, dance, because obviously the movement of dance around the pot works very well. The second subject which interests me very much is mythology, and that, especially Greek mythology, which I suppose I'm influenced by the old Greek pots, which is what this is all about anyway. The Greeks were doing this thousands of years ago, decorating pots in the round. So that's something that I'm very interested in. It keeps recurring in my work. And the third subject is the circus. I don't know why, but it's just so full of colour and movement again, which I love. Here we have the pot after the bisque, after the first bisque. The next stage would be to pour the final glaze inside the pot first, before I start working on the exterior and adding more colour. Because if I pour that after I've done the work, there is a danger of messing up what I'm doing in terms of decoration.